Yeah, it's like finding that random piece. Bad news on a ship. It's like, does anybody recognize where this is from?
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
When I was
Boom. Oh, wait. I think I remember.
when I was a younger man, I was at the fair with a girlfriend, and she did the twirly rides.
How much did that cost?
Just my heart.
Just my heart.
No, but she was up, and the bolt came off. One of the big ones like this. Just
Nope.
and they stopped the ride for a second, and I'm like looking at one of the guys comes picks it up, kind of looks at it, puts it on the railing,
With all the other bolts.
starts it up again.
Oh, jeez. You know what happens when they have an accident, right?
Nothing.
They go on to the next town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just like,
It's
yeah.
like-
Yeah, no, it was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, so like that ride or one of your bridges. Which do you choose?
He's still thinking.
Yeah, I know.
He's really on the horns of a dilemma over that one.
Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Jenna.
Charles.
John.
I'm confused.
And I'm curious.
Well, I'm also Seth.
Yes. And so we're here. We've got some con talk to talk about. Seth and I just recently came back from ConQuest down in Kansas City.
Conquest.
Hey.
It's my favorite con.
That
Shut
was
up.
Audie reminded me of the minstrels from Monty
Yay.
Python.
And
There was much rejoicing.
Yay.
There was much rejoicing. It was Conquest. I love
Yes.
Conquest.
Well, and the cool thing about ConQuest, one of the cool things, there were many, one of them was the Mad Scientist Creation Contest.
Doomsday device.
Doomsday device. Make a doomsday device to eradicate all the beings on a planet. And
All those who would cross you.
right. So Linda and I participated in that. And actually, if you're watching the video version of our podcast, you'll see the psycho-infraculator that we created sitting here on a chair next to the table. For those of you that are just listening to us via audio, it looks like a square box. Basically, it is kind of a square box, about, what would you say, about a foot on a side, so it's about a 1 foot square cube. And then either side has some egg cartons attached to it with circuit boards hot glued on, and then there's sundry wires running around the top and the sides, and some
It looks like somebody put a microwave together wrong.
yeah, inside out.
Yeah, there you go.
Non-standard-
Inside out for microwave.
It looks-
Non-standard butt plug for sure. Yeah.
And then it's got some LED lights on the top, and so it.
Well, and the top looks like it. To me, that looked like a brain.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to look like. And so basically, the idea behind it is that you power the thing on, and that it turns any brain that it's aimed at into a pile of hot lava, which then
how do
burns
you-
its way down through your
Magma.
body.
How do you aim it?
It says on the front
It
there.
has a front.
There's a front.
Yeah, and it says front, point towards enemy.
Oh,
It's
okay.
very important that you point the front towards the enemy. It doesn't
Yes.
have any handles to speak of, though.
No. But it does have a thruster pack on the bottom, so it can hover.
I
You
mean,
can give it
sure.
instructions and send it to go fly off, kind of like
Vager.
V'ger.
That worked out well for everyone.
That was It's like Nomad, and it's like
Yes.
And resulted in
sterilized, and,
a
yeah.
fantastic movie.
Well, fantastic.
Uh,
I sense a bit of sarcasm there.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was powerful enough to almost derail the entire franchise. Yes, it was very powerful.
Yes.
It was.
And the psychoinfraculator that you're looking at actually won the competition.
By overwhelming popular vote.
Yep. Seth, Linda and I, we had to leave ConQuest Sunday about noon, so we weren't able to stay for the voting. But the psychoinfraculator won, and we got some amazing little gifts from them. We got a couple of 50th anniversary ConQuest pins. This was their 50th con. And we got
No magic coins.
no magic coins, but we did get a couple of pens. They got a nice pen set that's also got like a little nubbin on it for use on tablets,
Nubbin.
I guess you would call that. And then a little ConQuest Sci-Fi Convention flashlight. So if you're at the con and suddenly all the lights go out,
It happens more than you'd think.
yeah,
Monster attacks.
sure, Godzilla. Pens and a couple of ConQuest 50th anniversary bags. So a nice little haul.
Mm-hmm.
It
And the adulation of your
peers,
well, I was going to
maybe not peers.
I was going to say more your conquered your
Foes.
subjects.
Yes,
Fellow mad
right.
scientists.
Yes, proof that mad science does pay.
Just
At
not
least a
very
couple
well.
of pens.
At least a couple
Yeah.
of pens in a bag. Yeah, you're probably not going to get rich as a mad scientist.
And I mean, you got to
Unless-
keep whatever the infractulator is.
Right. The infractulator's here. We might just modify it and donate it to the charity auction next year. And I would imagine the damage it can do, it ought to bring a pretty penny.
I know. Well, what would you pay to be able to infractulate your enemies
Right.
at
I'm just
will?
wondering how many world governments are going to send representatives to bid.
Mm. So, speaking
I
of
can
the
think of
charity
one.
auction, I love the charity auction at ConQuest. We go every year, and we probably spend more money than we should because they get a lot of fun stuff. Signed first edition books, a bunch of sci-fi memorabilia. Gosh, what all did they? They had some prints signed by actors. They had stuff from or props from movies that were also signed. Stuff that has been going through the convention for the last almost 50 years. Like, they've got these fun little things that change hands every year. It's a good time. They've got a good group there and a good array of things to bid on. It's always fun.
Yeah, well, and the thing that was amazing to me was the gaming area, and the sets that they built for the gaming was amazing. Amazing detail and craftsmanship put into these things, and they build them themselves, paint them, put all the scenery in.
So, yes, this was at Undercon, which is, as you would guess, underneath ConQuest. And they get the basement of the hotel, and it is a humongous area.
It
Like,
is
I
huge.
don't know how many tables they had, but they had games of Warcraft.
Oh.
Dang it. What is
They
that
had
called?
games.
World of Warcraft.
No,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Warhammer?
Warhammer.
Okay.
Yeah, they had Warhammer 40K down there, Warhammer 30K.
Yeah.
They probably had 20 and 10K. I don't know much about Warhammer, unfortunately.
And they also had a bunch of World War II scenes, games.
Let me
and
see if I've got.
I've got a bunch of pictures I'll post as we're-
Yes, I thought I had a note.
excuse me, as
on
we're talking
that.
about it, but I mean, it was really detailed stuff.
Yeah, some people
couldn't
who
believe it.
were.
I mean, there has to be a fortune just in those game boards.
Okay, Invested Painting
Oh,
did
right.
did the and you can look them up on Facebook. I think Invested Painting did these fantastic science fiction sets for doing this wargaming.
Yeah.
And so you'd have these buildings in these different industrial looking areas, and then their models were anywhere from yay big to yay big.
And when you say
Com-
yay, so this for people listening.
like an inch tall to about 7 to 8 inches tall,
Way to use your words.
fully
So happy.
fully hand painted,
Yeah.
just beautifully painted, and we're talking about sets with like lighted signs
And reactors and all. I mean, just all kinds of glowy stuff. If you
With
like glowy
colors.
stuff, lots of glowy
Many
stuff.
colors.
Many colors.
And
Many.
the World War II game that they were playing is called Bolt Action.
Ah, right. And they had like villages and towns, and they had tanks, and they had there were-
Destructible buildings.
yeah. And they even had some Star Wars sets scenes for Star Wars gaming. They had like the Jabba's sail barge, and they had like one of those big Jawa transport crawler things. It was probably at least a foot tall. Yeah, it was some amazing stuff for the gaming, and they had great panels. I think my favorite thing of the whole con was the con suite.
Oh yeah, the con suite is excellent.
Oh, they really do the con suite right. I mean, they got
It wasn't
free.
like a little old lady slapping your
Yeah,
hand.
we
No.
get yelled at.
There was no little old lady yelling at you.
There was the first night, I think it was. Was it the first night or the second night? They had Kansas City pulled pork.
Second night.
Second night, they had Kansas City pulled pork with coleslaw and
Baked beans.
like good baked beans.
Yeah.
Pop all weekend.
Yeah, free pop, water anytime you wanted it.
Yep.
They always had snacks, something to eat in there any time of the day or night. You go
Something
in
for
there.
lunch and for breakfast.
And they had a nice sitting area, so you could just go down there, grab a plate, sit down, relax for a while.
yeah, they had a
Yeah.
quiet room that was kind of like right off next to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a nice little con, and it was at the Sheraton downtown in Kansas City. Beautiful hotel. Yeah, Crown Center, and real close to the Power and Light District. We went down there once, met some friends down there that we see at some of the other cons, and so it was a nice weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
What was their favorite panel?
So it was in roughly the same place.
Yeah, it wasn't too far away.
Yeah.
It was about a mile from where the other convention was.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Comic Con. My favorite panel, well, there were a couple I went to that I liked. One was on Doctor Who, and it was his 13 and unlucky number, referencing Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor, because the viewership figures haven't been up where they should be, I think.
Because misogyny. But
No, mostly the feeling was because of the stories. The writers haven't been giving decent stories. The stories haven't been up to Jodie Whittaker's ability. Jodie's done. The general feeling of the panel was that Jodie's done a great job portraying the Doctor and embodying the Doctor, but that the stories have not been compelling in the same way that they were in previous seasons. So
Is it? Do you think it's because? Well, is it because they've been? I haven't seen any of her episodes. So,
Sure.
Is it because that they were specifically avoiding some of the classic Who villains and classic Doctor
that may
Who
have been part of
storylines?
it too. They did have a couple of memorable episodes. I would
well,
say
I remember
one.
the first one where she's fighting the Tooth Fairy, and it's like she kind of.
Yeah.
It was a very weak premise.
Sim Shaw with the teeth in his
Whatever.
face.
It's like, and he
Yeah.
had to beat up on Steve, just because
Yeah.
Steve is just.
Right.
He's like, well, I had to come and conquer Steve because then I'll become the ruler of my planet.
Yeah,
And
referencing a previous episode of the podcast where we.
Yeah, Steve is just this guy. He's just
Yeah.
he's actually got serious insecurity problems. It's like this is the guy you have to beat.
He needs to cross
Yeah.
5,000 galaxies to come back with Steve's teeth.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So that was kind of ridiculous. But the one a couple episodes that I liked. One was Rosa Parks, and that was a good episode, I
That
thought.
was.
And the other one was where they went back to India during the Pakistan-India wars, and they were dividing the country off and creating Pakistan and India. And I guess there was a lot of bloodshed from that. So, so that was a couple of good episodes, but the rest were kind of mediocre writing, not very compelling. So, the hope is that that'll pick up next year. And then the other panel I went to, and Seth, I think you attended that one too, where they got into kind of talking about Star Trek Discovery and the Orville and
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was toxic fandom.
yeah, right.
Which,
And
who has the toxic fandom?
Well, the discussion ended up being mostly about people arguing about Discovery versus the Orville, but the original intent of the panel was to discuss why fandom was becoming so toxic.
right.
It was like, I mean, if you like Discovery, fine. If you like the Orville, fine. There's no reason to send death threats.
Well, yeah,
Right,
it's like that's
right.
how you lose all the things you like. It's like if you keep bitching about the stuff, people will just stop making the things that you like.
Right.
And I like too. And it's like, so you want to win that one? Yeah.
Or
yeah.
sign a petition to redo Game of Thrones.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
That's just dumb. It's done. That's,
It won't
they
happen.
did it. This is the way they wanted to do
Right.
it. You
No,
wanna-
I know, I know.
No,
I'm
wait
just-
50 years, they'll make it again.
People
Yeah.
set
Right.
up their own 10-year project with HBO. You go right ahead. Yeah.
Even money if even money if you've got the last book in the series by then. But
Right. Right.
I'm
well,
kind of.
I'm sorry,
People
George.
are starting to think that there isn't going to be one.
oh, there will be.
No.
Yeah, there will be.
Maybe not.
I think he's got a good template as to what to avoid.
I mean,
Yeah.
if for no other reason than George R. R. Martin likes money,
He
and
likes money,
he will
but-
get a lot of money by finishing that by putting out that last
Especially
book.
if it's different than the show.
He might I don't know what the legal agreement to make the show looked like, but he might be bound by that agreement to put out a book that's follows
Similar.
the show. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. And so for anybody that hasn't seen Game of Thrones, there may be spoilers ahead. Actually, there will be.
Game of spoilers.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If the season had been longer and they had shown a bit more of the progression of Daenerys into madness, I could have accepted her going rogue on the citizens of King's Landing.
But they
and
chose
burning it to the ground.
to do 6 episodes
Yes,
rather
right.
than 8 or 10. They
Right.
chose that.
They should have done 10 episodes. And almost really, they probably could have done another couple seasons, I think, with the material that they had
Yeah.
left. Because they wound up, I mean, The Night King, we've spent eight seasons,
yeah.
7.5 seasons with the build up to the Night King.
And then there he is. He's gone.
And like the only part you really see him in the battle, he rides a dragon, he lands in the Godswood, and he walks up to
Yeah.
Bran, and he gets knifed in the back
Yeah.
Yeah,
or in the chest, I guess.
it does seem a little bit like they rushed things.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting
like-
to see a lot more of winter,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, they talked about the
Yeah.
snows being piled up above the castle walls.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of winter thing. And I'm envisioning that you've got, a year of just darkness where you don't even see the sun, and the snow's piled up high, and you've got White Walkers that are periodically, they just come out of nowhere suddenly and attack the castle. So it's not like you're preparing for an invasion of walkers. It's like they're just roaming the landscape, almost like a undead
Zombies.
zombie army, right?
Yeah.
And at any moment, a group of them can just attack your castle. And that's the horrifying thing, is you don't know where they are or when they are.
I mean, that's the
Especially
feeling
when
I
it's shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Which
What's
is,
that?
Especially when it's shot in the dark and you can't see
Right.
any damn thing
Right.
anyway.
that was kind of the impression of winter I always got, is
Yeah.
that it was this huge long season of winter. Is like,
Yes,
and
right.
That's the whole reason the
Maybe with
winter
little-
is coming.
Yeah, little or no sun, and
And then
Ice
winter
Age
is gone.
glaciers and-
Bye.
yeah, but we didn't get that.
I mean, if all you had to do is kill one dude to get rid of winter, point me at that dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
Right.
gosh.
Yeah.
I'd have killed 10 of them this year.
Right. And then I was not really satisfied with Cersei's ending. I thought she got far too merciful an ending.
Yeah.
I think they tried to, in the last few moments, paint her as being sympathetic because she's pregnant and whatever. And I'm like, and she lost everything. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. She deserves a horrible death.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And she didn't get it. and then
She deserves the death she gave to so many other people.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then with Jamie, he happens to run into Euron Greyjoy on the beach, and they have this stab fight, and Jamie gets stabbed through his side with a sword, and then he gets
Well, that's what usually happens in a stab fight.
and then he gets stabbed in the gut with a sword,
And
and
it
Euron gets
continues,
cut a couple of
yeah.
times, and he gets and then he somehow manages to drag himself over to his sword and grab his sword and stand up and plunges it through Euron Greyjoy and kind of pins him to a rock, and then
To a rock, huh?
well, I mean, he
Well,
fell
was that
against a
caliber?
rock, and he was bleeding out horribly. Now, Jamie, who's been stabbed twice with a sword, who's also bleeding out, is on his feet, and he proceeds to leave.
He's very
and-
good at stab fighting. Come on.
Yeah, well, apparently, and of making it through the streets of King's Landing with no blood in his body, because he's bleeding out.
What?
He goes from the beach all the way through King's Landing, all the way up to find Cersei. He finds Cersei. They reunite. Then he takes her back down to the hold where they got all the dragon skulls, right? And that's where their final demise is. But had he been able to get out of there, he couldn't, because so much of the area had collapsed with rubble. He couldn't escape. But had he escaped, he would have gone on and lived a happy life with multiple
I
stab
got the
wounds.
What
impression that
don't
he
you
was-
understand about being good at stab
Well,
fighting?
I was under the impression that he was actually terminally injured. It's
Yes.
just, he just died. He got to Cersei.
I thought he
He
was
got to her.
terminally injured, but he wasn't acting terminally injured.
Towards he had his second round of energy.
Well, he's a kingslayer. He killed another king. It always gives you a boost.
Did no one attend the classes on stab fighting?
No,
I missed that
apparently
class.
not.
It's like when Godzilla gets radiation.
If only Jenna were here, she could give us the whole stab fighting rule set.
While singing a magic song.
Okay, well, let me throw in mine, because a lot of this, I don't think I minded, or I don't think I would have minded if the dialogue had been a little better. What I was expecting the dialogue, so all 6 episodes, I think we were a little short,
Yeah.
and so like, I'd have been okay. And hate to be the guy trying to direct, but
Yeah.
but all right. So Cersei and Jamie have a stupid death. If they'd have just had a character walking by and gone, fuck, she deserved worse. Then it's
Yeah.
okay, right? You would have
Right.
been like
Right.
the disappointment you would have shared with.
With a character.
Yeah. But they didn't. There was a lot of
Right.
Better than she
Yeah.
deserved.
Yeah,
It-
they
it-
just didn't do
It
that.
looked like if
Right.
they'd actually hugged closer to the walls, they would have lived.
Yeah.
It's like they started saying right in the middle where all the
Right.
debris was coming down.
Right.
Well,
Right.
he was trying to get himself. Well, the same thing goes with the Nightwalker. Is if even just a sentence afterwards going, describing what he was. Well, because I've read some theories after the fact,
The
and you
Night
go,
Walker turned to ice shards afterwards.
Yeah.
So really,
or why was he pissed? That was
Right.
one of the. And,
Yeah,
and like I read an
unexplained.
interesting theory where he's what the Nightwalker really was. It's a theory, I think, was a person that the tree people, whatever the mystics, had
right.
turned into this
the
dead.
children
Yeah.
of men.
Yeah.
Well,
they did.
now he's pissed because he's a person, right?
Yeah.
And so now he just wants to kill the other people because he's had a bad fate. Though, if that was part of it,
Yeah.
a couple of sentences
Explaining it.
explaining that would have
Right.
been, because I don't mind the short ending. Like I might be alone in this, but when the Sopranos ending, I thought was
Yeah,
kind of
because-
fun.
Where would they
Well-
fit those sentences in? Oh, in episode 7, 8, 9, and 10. They
Well, at
could've
least
fit all
one, the
those-
last
all
episode
those
could have
in
been
right there.
dialogue.
Yeah.
They could have cut out some of the Dark
Well,
War scenes.
And we don't even know if a White Walker talks. Or the Night King. Does he talk? Because he never said
He
anything.
didn't say a word, huh?
No, all he did
No.
is raise his hands. You knew the minute he raised his hands, shit was going to happen, because
Yeah.
you raise your hands, and
Raise them,
everybody
yeah.
who's dead within a certain vicinity, I guess, suddenly comes back to life. Because it certainly certainly wasn't everybody on the planet.
No.
So he must have a limited radius, but we don't know what that radius is.
What,
So,
what if he'd
I
won?
mean-
What does he do with those if he'd won. They just sit there for all eternity
He
looking
gets
at
to
him.
have the air conditioning
Yeah.
on all the time like he really wanted.
Yeah, but
I
he's
mean,
got
what do you
all
think
these
he's fighting
undead
for?
Just sitting there going, looking at you.
Maybe
It's like
that's what he
this-
wants.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone else is just too loud.
Well, he controls them with his mind, so he could have them bring him cocktails, cook up some weenies on the grill.
Ride on the dragon. I mean,
Yeah,
There's got to
dragon
be
rides.
a way of having
There's-
that. Yeah, dead
there's
person
always
social.
upsides.
Yeah,
There's a,
dead person social.
There's always upsides to being the Dark Lord. I mean,
We
you
should
become the
host a
Dark Lord
dead
for a
person
reason.
social.
it's whatever you want.
Dead man's party.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder, this was rushed.
Yeah.
Maybe it was rushed, both in the fact that they were trying to do too much in too few episodes, and rushed in that they were they had to get that 7th season out, or 8th season. Sorry,
Yeah.
Did
they
have
had to get that 8th.
Well,
I don't know. We're talking
was
about.
HBO putting the screws on them or something? Get this
Could
done
be.
fast? 'Cause,
I mean-
it's their big moneymaker. I don't know why
Yeah.
they
well,
screw
there's,
the pooch on that.
you never know.
But-
The stars were making too much money.
Well,
But-
from what I've seen and read, HBO was perfectly willing to go 10 seasons.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah. On
They
that show.
said they didn't
I
want
wonder
to. They
if
said they didn't
the
need to.
actors weren't.
No.
They probably don't.
Well,
The
I mean,
actors were fine with it. It was
Kit
it was-
Harington has checked himself into rehab, so
Yeah.
he was probably falling apart near the end there.
He looked like he was falling
Sansa
apart.
doesn't want to do it ever again. She said, "I'll never ever do this again," and she's just basically. I think she's
Did
not
she
mad
say
at,
why?
It's because she's been doing it for 10 years. It's like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like a huge part of her life, and it's
Yeah.
like she wants to
Yeah,
move
that
on.
is-
I think most of these people do.
But-
They just want to get
But
on with it.
how many of us have had jobs for our whole lives that we're still
Oh,
doing?
God.
Right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but
But give me $1 million bucks and I'm out.
All these people were unknown before this show.
Yeah.
And before that, they would have done anything to get any kind of steady work. But now they're famous. They can go and do whatever artistic projects they want to do. And they probably want to do that.
Well,
And
some,
it's
yeah,
like-
some of the child actors, though, I doubt they knew what they were getting themselves into.
Right.
Yeah,
It was at all.
but
Yeah,
I
wasn't
also
Arya was like 12 when she started, wasn't she?
I'm also wondering just how much I know George R. R. Martin was involved, but there's also the question of if this season was rushed, was he rushed to come up with the ending?
But it might not have just
or
been the actor.
because the rest of the show they had a script to follow.
Right.
They
Yeah, I'm
had-
presuming they had better writers. I'm
Or a
presuming they've
book
got,
to follow, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was already like
it was all in the books.
pre-written.
Yeah,
It was all
Yeah.
set to
this is stuff they had go. Up with on the fly, and I
it
don't.
showed.
Yeah,
So
I
it's-
don't know if.
Could
Yeah,
this be George R. R. Martin's fault for having such a sloppy?
I
fifth
don't
season?
know how much he was involved in writing the ending. I assume he was helping to come up with that, but I don't know if he had ideas that he would have rather pursued, and then the network was just like, no, we can't do this.
I don't know his method, but I do know a lot of people complain that his books take a long time to come out. Does he have a process that's just extra long in terms of how he comes up? with
Every
stuff?
author has their own process,
they do.
and
Well, and he's
So-
come out with several books in the interim while we've been waiting for the last
yeah,
book.
I mean, and there's also a certain degree of
Is he burnt out on Game of Thrones?
he might be. I mean, you do something for
Yeah.
what now 25 years? How long has he been writing these? And each one
Forever.
is, you see, those are big books. That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of work. To keep all the. He's got a
If I understand his method, he actually throws away more than he keeps.
yeah.
So it's like shit.
Well, you've got two.
That's a lot of writing.
You've got what 24 storylines you have to wrap up
Yeah.
satisfyingly. That's a lot of work, especially for coming up with a satisfying climax to your story and then a satisfying ending.
also
And I just don't think
Possible that they decided it just couldn't be done. There were too many storylines. There have
To
been
wrap
all
up.
these seasons of all these different storylines building, and
Yeah.
to bring them all together.
and I think they should have taken their time with it.
But I have to say, in a lot of ways, I like the ending was very elitist, hilarious.
Elitist? In what way?
In what way? Yeah.
Oh well, they all because you have our our book learned guy. What's his the?
Oh, Sam.
Samuel.
Yeah,
Oh.
Sam going. Why don't we let the people have the vote? And yeah,
Right.
and all these people that have done nothing the last decade
Yes.
except kill each other, torture each other. I mean, you have not seen any ruling happening
Right.
that's been positive.
Right.
Giggle because you can't let the commoners be in charge, right? And that was funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
It sounds funny to an American,
Well,
but you got to understand the feudal monarchs were actually very efficient. They actually kept the order very well.
And this is
It was funny.
John,
Yeah.
pro-feudalism.
No, I'm not necessarily pro. There's too many people on the planet to go back to feudalism, but it's like
we're pretty close.
there's no, we're not. We're closer to fascism than we are to feudalism. But no, it's like you expected of me. You named me. What's my name, sir?
The voice of doom.
Yes.
No, I'm gonna contend that there was the setup for them being arrogant without
Yeah, I
really,
can see that.
Yeah, even when they had a common enemy, they didn't do a very good job of joining forces.
Right.
No.
So there's a lot to complain about the ruling class here if you
Yeah.
were not so soap opera involved with them.
Yeah.
So to me that was a cute
Yeah.
ending, and they at least brought back that Tyrion still didn't get to tell his dirty joke.
Right. Right. But
How
now,
did-
essentially, the way it ended is Tyrion's going to be ruling the now 6 kingdoms
In a sense,
because
as
Bran's going to be off warging into
yeah, he's having
Squirrels.
his LSD trips. Yeah,
Bran's
I mean, you can't just give that up.
He lives most of his life in the past. He already said, and when he's not living in the past, he's warging into squirrels and looking for the one remaining dragon that's out there.
Well, Various always talked about his little birds, right?
Yeah.
He literally has little birds that can
Right.
listen on any
Yeah.
conversation
He
he
is
wants.
the little birds.
So
Yeah.
there's literally no way that anyone can conspire against him.
Right.
So
How-
he's gonna be able to keep control pretty well.
How'd you guys feel about how John ended up?
I thought I could buy all of that. I could see him killing Daenerys. I mean, it seemed to me the way it had to go based on what she had done and the madness that she was portraying at the end. And
well,
the way,
and what's a ruling class without misogyny?
right?
I don't know what. What?
Yeah,
It's like
you have to kill a queen. I don't know.
okay,
Every
all right,
queen
it's
gets
like,
killed.
Yeah.
Just
I
about
wouldn't
every woman.
necessarily call killing the queen misogyny. It's like it's murder.
It's the premise.
It's murder. It's murder.
Yeah.
Regicide.
And then
Regicide,
She gets a little power hungry.
A
and
little.
then
Shame on her.
yeah, and I saw,
Yeah,
you know, I
Who
thought
didn't? Who didn't in this show?
well, that's what I'm saying.
Everybody. So there's no really need to bring up her femininity. It's like she
Yeah,
was
it
actually
was- it
one
was,
of the least power hungry of all the women on the show. And don't
yeah,
think
Cersei was pretty.
Cersei
power
was
hungry.
bad, but Sansa was getting quite catty herself. In
Yeah.
the end there, she was like, and she's the one that insisted that the North not be part of the 7 Kingdoms, and all this is like going to draw
Right.
this line. in
Well,
the
and
sand.
and if you were part of one of the other kingdoms, and Sansa says, "Yeah, the North's not going to be part of the
States' rights.
well, I would say, yeah, you know what? Neither is the Riverlands. The Riverlands, oh yeah, and Iron Thrones, yeah, no, we're out.
Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story.
Yeah,
I was like in 5th grade, and in French class. Not even 6th or 7th grade, but it's like this French teacher was not quite stable, and I had 2 girls in my class who loved to play with him. And it's like I remember one class, the class started. She said, "I lost my contact," and we spent like 25 minutes looking for it, and then she said, "I don't wear contacts." It's like just playing with it, and he eventually like went. They actually took him out of a class in a straitjacket. He was crazy. Now imagine Daenerys has plans for world domination. Jon Snow convinces her to go to the north to fight, and she loses dragons and all this stuff. And then Sansa's just nasty to her all the time. It's like, I'm not saying that she didn't have a great deal of her father's blood in her, but Sansa was almost pushing her to go. I mean, it's like, because they'd all be dead without her.
And then finding out that the guy you slept with is also what, your nephew?
Yeah. Which
Right.
apparently is not as big a deal in Targaryen as it
Yeah.
should be, but you know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
at least he was like, no, this is weird now. You made it weird.
I made it weird. How did
No, not you.
Oh.
In the show.
Well, he was still a Stark. It was
Well, in a way.
it was Ned's sister,
Yeah.
so he was.
Well, and I
Stark.
think things would have turned out a lot differently if instead of heading north to fight the White Walkers, Daenerys had gone and attacked King's Landing off the bat when she had all of her dragons. She had
Yeah.
3 of them. They could have just flown right to the Red Keep and melted it to the ground. And then she'd have had all the King's Landing forces, the Knights Guard and all that. She wouldn't have been felt like, because they killed Missandei and
Yeah.
they'd killed her dragons.
And those are the things, along with Sansa, egging her on,
Right.
that pushed her over the top, and it's like,
Right. It was just too short of a twist for me since we'd seen, 6 to 7 years of her being, Misa mother, and freeing
Well, that
freeing
being said,
people
though,
that weren't.
she was going to burn them all to the ground before in at least one of those cities.
yeah. And she did.
They had to talk her off the cliff a couple of times
Yeah.
leading
She
up to this.
crucified all the masters and
Yeah, but they were not.
burned all of the cows alive.
It was all the assholes though she was going
See,
after.
and
It
that's
wasn't
just it.
the innocent people.
Yeah, but who defines innocent here?
Well, I
Do
mean-
we? I
This is
mean,
the person with the dragons.
Yeah.
Apparently.
and just
Yeah.
because we had our favorites, does that mean that she necessarily has to have our favorites? It's like,
Well, listen, I would say.
what if I gave you a choice about how many people at this table you could kill?
Yeah,
And it's like,
I wouldn't-
do we want to know the answer?
I wouldn't kill anybody at this table.
Well, what if you had to?
If I had to kill everybody,
This sounds like a fun game. Let's put
I
the
know.
names in a
Why are
hat.
we going here?
Because,
Well, I don't know.
Because whoever.
4 of us have someone in mind.
Yes. There's 5 of you other than me.
4 of us at the table.
All right. All right.
This
well,
is,
Is that the only thing you're gonna say this whole fucking show? Is that it? Is that
It
all
was
we get out
worth
of
it.
you? Is that you're just gonna sit back here, bide your time, and it's like, yeah, you're just gonna
No, but listen,
drop a
but
big old
this
F you
will
on
be
me.
fun.
So hey, all right, that's
for
fine.
the next episode, we will rate who we would kill in order.
That's
if we
not
had
the
to.
point.
We absolutely
That's not-
had
that's
to
not the
put him
point.
in a hat,
yeah.
and then
Can I put
see-
anybody's name in the hat?
Yeah, then
or
we'll
does
see.
it have to just be people on the show?
it has to be people on the show, and then
Damn
we'll
it.
see who has a breakdown at the end.
Well, listen.
And burns everyone to death.
Well, listen. Here's the thing: Daenerys was not forced to kill anyone. She didn't have to kill anyone, and I could see her
But you
going
just got
mad.
to a point where this is
I could
enough,
see her.
Enough
I could
crap.
see her going that way over a period of time, but it was too short a snap for me. We'd 6 seasons or 7 seasons of her being built up as the liberator, and the only people she'd gone after were the ones that had wronged her or that were unnecessarily cruel to people. She crucified the masters because they crucified all these slaves.
Right, but she's still a fairly young person,
Yeah.
and she had nukes.
But the
And
Right.
that's,
the
that's
people
just what-
of King's Landing killed one of her dragons the day before. It's like,
Oh, I know.
and
I
it's
know.
like, how does she differentiate between the
I know,
innocents
but-
and the non-innocents?
Well,
It's like,
non-combatants.
but the non-combatants pay the salaries of the people who are doing this.
But not willingly. They're
And-
taxed,
Uh,
just like we are.
yeah.
I don't necessarily willingly support the invasion of, I don't know,
Whatever
Iraq
country.
or whatever,
Pick
right?
one.
Right? But my taxes go to fund that army. So,
Yeah,
I'm
but-
supporting it. I don't think I should be
But
beheaded because
how
of
does
that.
Iraq feel about that? Do they think that you might have something to do with it?
Well, I don't know that they
Mm.
blame all Americans. They certainly blame the American government. I would blame the American government. If Iran attacked us, I wouldn't blame the Iranian people. I would blame the mullahs in Iran,
But
the
that's
clerics,
that's
the
obviously,
ruling
that is
government.
Obviously, not how this works here.
What do you mean?
Because there's a huge rash of Islamophobia and attacks on Muslim people in this country after 9/11.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, so obviously that's not how people think.
Well,
A person can think in a certain way, but people as a group animal,
Well, as
Some-
a country,
some
we
people.
have bombed innocent
a great
people.
many
yeah.
people.
well, yeah, and there
And it's
are
tragic.
people that are
This
like that don't distinguish, that don't see the nuance between a government and a people. And I think you're going to have that no matter what. But I don't think, and I think those type of people are more common people, maybe less educated people that don't understand that. But she wasn't like that.
well, I'm a,
Did you take your chloroprep, Charles?
no, I know. When no, I think she was a little bit leading up. I think there was more insanity. They just kept pushing it back.
Yeah.
And she's a person
Chloroprep.
that, much like
I think there
leaders
were
of today,
glimmers.
there is the problem that if you have a dragon, you're going to want to use that dragon.
Yeah.
That's otherwise, what's the point?
Well, can't you just have like a dragon test range? You get your dragon and you fly down, and they have like little
Yes.
carts set up and little,
I don't think that's how dragons work.
straw people, and then
Dragons
you fly
got-
down and you say Dracarys.
Dragon's got a dragon, man.
Well, yeah, but you do it in a dragon test range.
Yes, underground
Well,
dragon
that's
testing.
just
That's
not-
just someone mislabeled King's Landing as a dragon test range, and it's like, that's just, darn, my bad. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to kill everybody in King's Landing.
Problems were solved. Problems were solved.
Yeah.
Problems
I-
were solved.
Listen, there's nothing that she did that I couldn't accept.
No,
right?
you wanted
Yeah.
to build up.
I
more
just
thing- I
think,
agree.
yeah, if they'd had a little more buildup in it, it would have been more plausible for me. It just seemed like too rapid.
Just needed a little bit more Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
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 But she had been betrayed by her advisors.
Oh,
Yeah,
and, you
but
know,
they
there was
could
enough.
they
I
could
understand
have
that.
start showing her slide into insanity.
That's-
like
yeah.
even in the middle of season 7.
Yeah.
You know, we could have seen a
Right.
gradual
Yeah.
like slip as she went
Right.
down toward
Right.
madness.
I mean, we saw her burn the father and son, right? That wouldn't swear allegiance to her.
Yeah.
Turleys.
Turleys,
And
yeah, you're
I
right.
agreed with that.
Yes. Right.
But you know what? Even in that last mad rant with Jon Snow and
John White.
Daenerys,
yeah.
I was like, I agree with everything she said.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I thought she was right. I think the government she would have eventually set up would have lasted a long time and been very fair.
I would concur
Yeah.
with that.
And
too.
I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
but that's not going to happen now.
No.
No, well, John deep down just wanted to go run with the wolves.
Now, do you
They
think?
had a stab fight and she lost
Well, now here's a here's a question.
because John is also good at stab
Do you
fighting.
think if she'd have had that same conversation with John, but she hadn't have burned all of King's Landing to the ground,
Maybe.
that he would have still killed her?
Might have still
Maybe.
found a reason.
I don't think
know.
he would have still killed her at
I think
that
it was
point.
mostly the burning down of
Yes.
King's
Oh,
Landing.
yeah.
I
Well,
think it was, and the
they
loss of morals of any of the
Yeah, they were still
It's not-
killing
any of
innocents
them.
when it was
It's that-
over.
they
She
were
was-
raping and killing.
She was more than willing to kill her own troops because they were trying to flee the city at the same time. So, but as far as the raping and killing the troops do that.
Yeah, but afterwards, Grey Worm and the Unsullied are beheading all of the enemy troops after
Because-
they'd surrendered.
Because someone killed Missandei. And
Okay.
you know that's
But
gonna-
that's right. But that's what I'm saying is that if all of and John saw that and that went to the whole perceiving her as being mad, the fact that she's killing all of these beheading them even though they've surrendered. She burned all of the troops that had already surrendered, as well as the entire population of the town, which had surrendered, burned them all. Now, and John saw all of that, and to me, that's somebody that's insane, that you can't trust with that power.
Well, yeah, if
Now,
she can snap like that,
If
then
she
you got a
had,
problem.
if she hadn't done that, and she'd had that same final speech in that throne room with
Yeah,
John,
a more
he would
measured
not have
leader.
killed her.
Yeah.
He would have said, "Well, let's give her a chance. Maybe she's on to something."
Was it-
But at that point, I think he already had his
Yeah.
mind made up that she was
If
crazy.
this option is any option that can come up again,
Yeah.
we cannot have this option B is not an option.
Well,
we
and,
can do.
and anything she says after doing something like that is always going to be colored in that light of, Jesus, this person could be insane. And
Well, what
when
is it?
someone gives a speech like that at the end, you're going to say,
Or
that's,
John's just pretending to be the good guy this whole time.
yeah.
But if really, honestly, who would ever mess with Daenerys after King's Landing?
Nobody.
Yeah,
if
she's got a
that's-
dragon button that she's
Yeah.
a little too prone to press.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we've
But
seen that. she'll
wasn't
do
that
it.
like the problem with her, like her predecessors as
Yeah.
well? Is like they had the dragon button that they were a little too prone to press, and
Right.
that's why they got overthrown in the first place.
How much?
Right.
How much fire can one dragon make too? Because it just
Oh, yeah, it was
Enough
an
for
endless
King's
amount.
Landing.
It was an endless amount.
much. Yeah, it's like there's got to be if it's was it magic, or is it like if it's a
Dragons?
chemical reaction that
Yeah.
dragon should have run out of chemicals.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
like how many corpses can a Night King raise?
No, that's magic. We know that's
Well,
magic,
yeah, but
it's-
he's magic. Why can't the
it
dragons be
can
magic?
It can be.
No,
because-
John's got a point because just generally in nature, like skunks only have
So much.
so much
One
they
or
can
two
use a
shots.
month. Yeah,
Boy, that would
yeah.
have been a different kind of fate for King's Landing, wouldn't it?
Well, that
A dragon just flying
That would've
over, the green mist coming out from behind.
And then nobody ever went to King's Landing.
I want to see.
again.
And
I want to
instead
see
of-
The
Cersei skunked.
Instead of everyone in King's Landing dying, you just hear like hundreds of thousands of people going, "Oh,
Yeah.
We're out of tomato juice. What are we gonna do?
But I
it's
think-
in my eyes. It's in my eyes."
I tasted it.
Oh God!
Nah.
But I think John is well on his way to being king of the way north.
Wildlings.
He is the king of the
Wildlings.
wildlings.
Yeah, I mean,
they really, like, it looked like they were waiting for him.
yeah,
they did.
and
got there.
and if you see him as the lead horse coming
Yeah.
out of the under the tunnel under the wall, heading to the lands of always winter, and being followed by what's left of the Night's Watch as well as the wildlings, they're heading north, and you know that every wildling warlord north of the wall is going to be trying to wed their daughter to Jon Snow
Yeah.
because
But,
he's
I
like,
mean, that's not a terrible fate.
no, now,
I thought
but
that's
he had
exactly what he
swore,
wanted. I think that was the best ending that he could have
but
had.
he had swore not to take a wife because he was taking the black
He
on the
swore
wall.
to stay at Castle Black too. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw him ride
Exactly.
off. So
I mean,
And we
he's-
also see him have sex with Ygritte, even though he was in the
Yeah.
Night's Watch. So I mean, we know that he can certainly
well, and they do that.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
It's like
Go to
they just do
Molestown and
that.
have
Yeah,
a
have a little
tryst
Little
in Molestown.
Night's Watch
Yeah.
orgy.
Yeah. So John is set to
I
be
guess you expect a
king
bunch
of
of
the
bastards to
wildlings
keep
in the
their
way
oath.
north.
King of the Norther,
Sansa is king of the north.
Queen in the North.
Queen of the
Right.
North, yes.
Bran is king of the seven kingdoms.
6.
Six kingdoms, sorry.
Edward Stark's kids
And-
did real well.
And Arya is on her way west of Westeros
Finding
to
new
that's a-
places
that's
to
a-
finding
see.
new places to take over and control.
New-
So it could
new
be
sights to see, new people to stab.
we're
new
looking at.
faces to
I think
have.
we're looking at Stark World.
I wanted to see.
'Cause,
And, of course,
Starks are going to control the whole planet.
if Neddard
nice.
Stark could have seen how his kids ended up, I think he would have been fairly pleased. In terms
Yeah,
of,
no, that's
How they
what makes
branched
it
So
out.
great
total,
ending.
totally worth me getting my head chopped off.
Yeah.
What's that?
but
That's what makes it an interesting and fairly good ending.
Yeah.
Is these boring Starks, and they are boring, are the ones that took over.
Yeah.
Good administrators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or,
want,
you know, really good at stabbing folks.
I am sad they're not going to do an
Stab
Arya
fighting.
spinoff. Because
Yeah.
I would love to have seen the Arya spinoff. West
You
of
know what?
Westeros. I would have.
People
loved
had
Well,
said
time.
the same thing on Doctor Who.
it. I don't know what you mean.
Well,
Wanted to see Arya and going around
Yeah.
with Doctor
Arya-
That would be awesome.
Arya has her own time machine in
What?
Doctor Who.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so
think he's
Maisie
making
Williams.
things up.
No,
You wanna give
Maisie.
Maisie a TARDIS?
No, Maisie Williams has a TARDIS. So Maisie Williams was in Doctor Who, the final season with Peter Capaldi,
Okay.
and she played a character called, ultimately called Me. Let me give you a little backstory. So when Maisie Williams first appears, it's like one of the lead episodes of that particular season. She's a villager in the past. And there's a species that comes from space, and they're there to harvest the top warriors. And I can't remember
Like you
why.
do.
They I don't know, convert them into food or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, that's good. That's
So-
just good eating.
Yeah, so the doctor tries
That
to
and
scare
babies.
the species off, and they won't scare. And so he organizes the villagers and comes up with this plan to freak out the aliens and get rid of them. And the plan works, but in the process, Maisie Williams' character in the village, she gets killed. And so he's horribly distraught because he really liked her. And then he remembers that these aliens, of which there were a few left on the planet that got killed, they have this little medical chip implant in them that repairs their biology in case they get injured in battle. It repairs them dynamically. So he takes that chip and he puts it on her forehead, and the chip just kind of melds into her forehead. And all of a sudden it repairs her body and she comes back to life. And
Can I get one of those?
Yeah.
yeah.
I-
And
I'll
so
take 5.
but before she comes back to life, he puts that on her head, and he said, "I'm sorry." And then he turns to leave, and he hands a couple of pills. I think it was a couple of pills to. Oh no, I'm sorry. He had 2 of those chips. One he put on her forehead, and he gave the other chip to her father, and he said, "When she wakes up, give her this other one." And he said, "And tell her I'm sorry." And he leaves. Well, the deal is that chip that he put on her forehead will repair her body and making her essentially immortal.
Nice.
She will never die. And he gave her a second one so that if she found somebody she fell in love with that she didn't want to lose, she could give that person the other chip, and the both of them would live forever.
That's a bad idea.
Well, so it turned out to be a bad idea because obviously she did live forever, and
Obviously.
she figured out technology. Eventually, aliens came to the planet. She figured out alien technology and became almost like the doctor herself with the amount of knowledge that she had. And in the last episode of the season, you see her kind of at the end of the world with the doctor, and she was able to procure her own TARDIS. And so she ends up taking a TARDIS with who was, up until that point, the doctor's companion. What was her name? Louise Coleman. Yeah, Jenna Coleman. What was her character? I can't think of her character. Anyway, Maisie Williams. What? Claire Oswald. So Maisie Williams' character, me, and Claire Oswald, they have another TARDIS in the shape of a 1950s diner, and it goes flying off into space to go explore all of
Who'd you
time
give
and
the
space.
other chip to?
We never found out that out.
Hmm.
I don't think we found that out, did we? I can't remember.
So this relates to Sansa.
So it relates to Sansa. Yes, thanks for bringing me back. So it relates to Sansa in the fact that, much like Maisie Williams' character Sansa, Maisie Williams' character me has gone off to explore the unexplored regions of her world.
So just
Arya,
combine the
sorry.
two, put more stabbing in the Doctor Who.
Yeah.
New show.
So essentially, John, that was my point, was that that's the same thing that people of Doctor Who wanted. They wanted to see a spin-off show with
That's
Maisie
almost
Williams
any-
as me and Jenna Louise Coleman's character exploring space.
So Maisie
But
just
they
isn't
didn't
going to
get
get a special of anything.
Apparently
It's just-
not.
it's a-
But,
But there was a huge clamoring for that. There
The
was,
city
she
show
was a
you
very
enjoy
popular
that
character.
has
She's
subplots
already
and
too
stuff.
powerful.
Yeah.
You kind of want to know what the side character's life was.
Maisie Williams is just too powerful. She's
Yes.
got all of the Time Lord power.
Yeah.
She can like change faces and is very good at what we have come to know as stab fighting.
I would like to have seen West of Westeros. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
You don't have to add a TARDIS into West of Westeros. You just don't.
But why
But
not?
if you do,
But
it would be really awesome.
TARDIS versus Dragon.
Ooh.
TARDIS has no offensive.
What
power
about a
whatsoever.
TARDIS
It's like-
as a dragon?
Ooh.
Because it can camouflage itself.
Yeah.
I wonder if it can camouflage itself as an animate object.
It might,
Like a
then
dragon.
In that case, the TARDIS might be a dragon
It might.
right now. and it's like you
Yes.
just don't know it. Does anyone know the original shape of the TARDIS?
They've shown it on the show a couple times. It's humongous.
Is it?
Yeah. It's. I think they described it once as.
But much bigger on the inside.
Yeah. Well, much bigger on the inside, but weighs enough that it could crack the crust of the Earth's
Yeah.
surface.
But the outside, there's always well, it's it has had a couple of other, other than a 50s police phone box. It's taken on a couple of other appearances when the chameleon circuit was working.
supposed to
But its
come, like-
default image, I think, I can't remember exactly, but I think in reading one of the books, it was like just a white cube shape or something. They talk about the battle TARDISes. There's a book that describes the appearance of the battle TARDISes before they go camouflaged, and I think they're just like a white.
Is that a TARDIS that actually
Nondescript
has
box.
weapons?
Well, here's
Yeah.
here's what the internet says immediately.
Ooh.
Like a bunch of spheres
That's what a regular TARDIS
all
looks like?
around. I think it's a non-disguised TARDIS. So
How big is it?
big, big.
That looks-
Each one of those globes is the size of a planet.
That's just ridiculous, though. I mean, there's big, but then there's like a.
I don't know.
so
I
big,
just
there's
I just
absolutely-
made that part up.
There's no point.
You mean
It's
like
like-
Death Star big?
And I meant like, is it the size of a house? Is it the size of a city? Is it the size
Yeah.
of what?
Well,
like,
it's huge.
but if
Yeah.
each of those is the size of a planet, then that's ridiculous.
Well, but it does update to something other than a call box.
Oh yeah.
occasionally.
Hmm. It's been
'Cause
it's
it
been like
seems
an organ.
outdated.
It was what else? A taxi cab,
Did it drive?
a 50s diner.
Could you drive the taxi cab?
I don't know.
You'd figure.
I just saw people getting out of it. I think it was parked.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
So there's that.
there's that. Are we going to talk about Endgame today or wait
Or
until
is it-
next
Well,
week?
let's wait till next
Well,
week because
yeah.
I'm going to see it by then.
you have some footage that you want to show the fine crowd too, don't you?
Footage?
Of ConQuest.
No, we didn't take any
No, we
footage.
didn't take any footage, but
Oh,
we
cool.
took pictures, and we already showed those
Okay.
when we were talking about the game room.
All right.
I would have already put those up. So,
Excellent.
so
Yes,
we're
we
good.
have already shown them, but you haven't shown them yet. But you will have shown them.
Right.
And then they will have
It's
been
almost
shown.
like time travel.
I will show them
You
retroactively.
will have been shown them.
It was as if the pictures were there all along.
Yeah.
Yes. So enjoy the photos you've already seen.
Yes.
I mean,
And
are we
uh,
at time yet, or do we have more time?
I think we're pretty close to time.
That
I think
was
we're.
deep.
I think
I
we're.
know, right?
I think we're on our hour, if not within about 5 minutes of it. So.
All right. Well,
But now, as our next episode is going to be an After Dark episode,
After
right?
dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Dranks.
Yeah, and this time I think we need to wait for the booze to kick in on Seth because
Yeah.
it was almost like a magic switch. I saw it happen.
No, that was just a normal Monty Python thing. That was not.
No. Seth all of a sudden bank, and then he's like Seth unplugged.
That
Seth-
happens, yes.
That
Yes.
was awesome.
All,
I
all
like
of a
that.
sudden, the Monty Python quotes
Well,
come out.
Are we gonna call it? Are we gonna call it Galactic Driftwood After Dark or Galactic Driftwood Unplugged
I think
Ooh,
after-
that's a good.
or Galactic Driftwood Uncorked?
Or how about untethered?
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
The moorings have been released.
yes.
I am game with whatever, since I'm the designated driver.
You are. You're gonna drive us around. Awesome.
I'm just I don't care.
Or
It's like-
drive us to drink.
I'm not gonna have anybody driving us after dark wearing sunglasses.
I'll
Yeah,
tell
that
you,
is a
I
good
would take
point.
I have regular glasses that I can
Oh,
wear for that. It's like
John wears his sunglasses at night.
mm,
his
it's-
future's so bright he has to wear shades.
You can do better. I feel inside that you know that.
The
one.
rest of us wear sunglasses. John wears black hole sunglasses.
Ah.
Glasses.
Yes.
To contain the sarcasm,
You can,
lest
you
it
can,
infect
you can do
the
better
world.
too, Audie. It's like actually you save up for the entire damn show.
Yeah.
You should have at least a good last second comeback. Come
Well-
on, come on, give it to me, give it to me.
Take
Hit
it
me.
away,
Now-
John.
Now the other thing is, just really briefly, we've got a panel coming up at Okamacon at the end of the month, or Ocon, sorry. Ocon here in Omaha. So if you don't have your tickets yet, get tickets. We've got a booth there. We're going to be set up talking about Galactic Driftwood. We're going to be doing a special panel discussion on Stranger Things. This panel discussion will be the last weekend of June at Ocon, and then the very next week, July 4th, is the premiere of season 3 of Stranger Things. So this will be a very timely panel.
Sweet.
And we have some inside information. Well, it's actually some information I got while I was inside. But
Inside where?
a building.
A building.
Yes,
Which building?
my office.
All right.
What does your office have? Go on. Go
So-
on.
So
You're trying to be vague, and we're just going to let you be vague.
Yes.
Just give us the info.
yeah. Well, no, I can't give you the info until the show, until the panel. At the panel,
Is
it
this
will
another
come
one
out.
of those things where you're trying to build up,
this is a
build
dick,
up a
dick
fall-
move. Dick move. It's just a dick move. Yes, it is.
No, I've
this
got.
is like the first few episodes
Listen.
I was on where you're like, yeah, we've got a big surprise coming next episode.
Yeah.
Nope, really big surprise. It's just the episode after that. But there is
No.
more.
I know you're expecting something this week, and we didn't give it to you, but next week, oh my God, this is going to be great. You're going to love this.
No, listen, I've got some information that I was given while inside the building at work.
I don't believe you.
So I call it inside information.
You're just narcissistically trying to get attention.
No. On Stranger Things. And that information I will reveal at Ocon during our panel.
Who at your office has inside information about?
I know.
About
A coworker who
is
on YouTube a lot
so
watching stuff.
YouTube doesn't have good information. We're on YouTube.
It's like
Speaking of which, like and subscribe. Still, also,
clap for that.
we will be we'll be doing some stuff with Project Nerd at Ocon,
Yes, we will.
and we're looking
Watch
forward
for
to that.
us at some streaming live streaming events. And so it'll be fun. We hope to see you there.
We
and-
expect to see you there.
Right.
Yes. Damn it.
Right. So if you're wearing a costume that has a full face mask, you'll have to remove it because otherwise we won't know if we saw you there.
And we won't know who to check off the list.
Right.
The list.
The list of people
The
we're going
list.
to kill.
Yeah, we've got a list. It's right here.
We have the infractulator.
We do have
Next
the
to my
infraction.
Why didn't you
Infractulator.
make a thing that would turn
Yeah.
people's brains to lava if we
Magma.
weren't going to magma?
It's a lot like
Uh,
going
unless
As
we
long
were
as
gonna
the
use
brain
it.
stays inside the corpse, it's magma.
You're on the list. I'm going to put you down right now. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of Galactic Driftwood. We'll look for you next time for our After Dark, our Uncorked After Dark episode,
Untethered, after dark,
Yes.
uncorked.
whatever it may be. And we'll see you
We'll
next
workshop it.
Okay. It's okay. Whatever you guys, whatever makes you happy,
Whatever we want to call it.
whatever you want to call it. But
Charles seems like he's on the verge of
No,
coming out with a quip.
I just now realize something about you and that
About me?
and that some of your ideas about Game of Thrones came from a place of jealousy. As the mad scientist that wants to
Rule the
magnemize-
world,
Yeah.
magmamize everyone's
Magma-
brain.
well, no, Bill's been
So-
saying
Magmamize.
Bill's been saying it's bad. I'm the one
No,
that said it's good.
No, I know he's been saying it's bad, but it's because it comes
He
from a place
agreed
of
with
jealousy.
me readily after I said that. but
Anyway,
so Bill's sad that he didn't think of burning down
Correct.
Omaha with the dragon.
So so if I had an actual working infractulator, you're saying I would go Mad Queen on the
So-
entire planet?
So I suppose the question, instead of who on the podcast would we kill, it's who
Would
on
we
the
have to?
podcast who on the
Who do we have
podcast
to kill?
takes up the job of killing Bill when he's gone insane with power.
Right.
Like, who's gonna do that?
And maybe the question for me is not who on the table would I kill, but who would I remain living?
Yeah. think, yeah.
Who gets infractulated first?
Right.
Well,
Because once you've seen an
that's it for me, then.
infractulation,
It's nice knowing you.
once you've seen an infractulation, you just don't want to go there again.
He'll never kill Audie because he won't know he's there. Because he never says anything, ever.
He comes out with some
Is Audie
pointed
coming out?
quips.
That's good to know.
I wouldn't want to come out either if you guys keep calling me out for
I
nothing.
know. Quit being mean to Audie.
Yes.
Let Audie be
Oh,
Audie.
I can take it.
Did you turn on the audience mic?
I did not.
All right. Why?
Well, because we don't want the audience when they're snoring to be.
It was an okay episode. I didn't see her sleeping too much.
No. But you never know.
You never know. You don't.
Right.
You don't. You're right.
And you got to leave the snoring out.
And I mean, we were talking about murder a lot. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Plus, if the listeners, if you realize she's sitting in front of the infractulator, had it self-powered, we would have to have listened to her sucking drool back in off of her lips because her brain would have melted and she would have just been going blah blah.
The
Sounds
front
like a
is
listener
faced.
to me. It's like
Ow.
that's our target
The
audience.
front
right
is
there.
faced. The front of the
Infractulated people.
infractulator is faced toward her, so it's effectively pointing at her.
Yes, and that's just it's like a, subliminal threat.
Subliminal threat.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will laugh at our bad jokes or you will be melted.
Well, the bad jokes.
I think
are
we know what
punishment in
John
and of
prefers.
themselves. Yeah, melt me. No, just melt.
Melt me, baby.
Yeah, just like infractulate me.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this episode.
All right.
And thank you guys for participating in the panel. Thanks, Jenna, a.k.a. Audie, for sitting in for Jenna. Jenna just moved into a new place, and so she's busy trying to finish up that whole move thing. So that's why she's not on the show this week. But she will be back for our After Dark episode, as
Yeah.
will Audie.
And she'll be quite drunk, I'm sure, by the time.
One hopes.
One hopes.
Uh,
It's like,
So, if you liked this episode, leave us a comment in the comments section. Give us a subscribe. Click that subscribe button. And let us know what you thought. If you're listening to us on podcast, remember to tell a friend and leave a review. That's how we're going to get more listeners and get bigger and do more things. And
we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so
yeah.
so do something.
We're everywhere you want to be.
Yeah.
Yep. We should be putting links in the description to find us any of those places. So
Right. And if you have any ideas for any devices of mad science you'd like to see us build, let us know in the comments.
yeah, what did you think of the end of Game of Thrones? We really want to know.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.